What is the role of assessment and critique in flight training? What effect does it have on both the instructor and the student? Is it an essential part of our training? Hey pilots and aviation lovers, welcome to our channel where we motivate and inspire future aviators. My name is Kanu. You are watching Nimba Pilot, the Proud of Liberia. Well, we learn in Tag C of the FOI, the teaching process, that there are 4 essential skills that we instructors need to develop in order to become an effective instructor. And one of those skills was the assessment skill. We talked briefly about the assessment skill in Tag C, and we're going to dive deeper into this task. And well, if you have not yet watched Tags A, B, and C, we encourage you to go back and watch it. This is a whole series. We are going through the PTS, the Practical Test Standard for Flight Instructors. And the first 7 tasks in the PTS is called the FOI. And we are on task D of the FOI. The topic of today is assessment and critique. If you are new to this channel, we would like to welcome you. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you will be notified when we upload new videos. All right, let's get to today's task. We are on task D. We are on task D, and the topic of the day is assessment and critique. Whereas we've learned in Tag C that one of the essential skills is assessment, we also have another essential skill that we as instructors need to develop. And this skill is the critiquing skill. Okay? We need, in all we do, we need to be effective. Our student comes to us, they depend on us, they look up to us to know how they're doing, their progress. They look up to instructor to motivate them. So with these 2 essential skills, we can actually be an effective instructor to them. So the first thing we'll be looking at today is the assessment. Okay, what is the purpose of assessment? Like I said, we need to give feedback to the student. Okay, and we have to develop the assessment skill to be able to give a positive feedback or to be able to give an effective feedback to our students so they can learn from it. And also, assessment allows students to know their progress. Okay, by us telling them, they will know that, okay, from stage 1 to stage 2, I think I'm doing a little better or I need to work hard. Okay, it allows them the student to know their progress. It also contribute, this is a big one, it also contribute to the student development of their aeronautical decision-making process. Okay, that is the purpose of an assessment. So, like I said, we need to be effective in all we do, even when we are assessing our student, right? So, there are characteristics of an effective assessment. What is this all about? Okay, when you are assessing your student, the number 1 objective should be that the assessment should focus on the student performing as it was, not as it should have been. Do not compare your student progress with another student. If you go back in Task B, the learning process, we said that people learn different ways. There are different ways in which people learn, and people learn at different pace. So if you have 2 students, okay, and one is progressing through the maneuver and the other one is a little bit struggling, do not let your personal opinion affect your assessment of their student. Okay, or don't compare the student who is progressing fast to the student who is struggling. Okay, don't say because your friend, I'm the same instructor, but your friend is picking up this thing as fast on a faster pace, Therefore, your assessment should be based on that person who is going faster than that person who is going slower. So a couple of characteristics of an effective assessment. It should be acceptable. If you go back in tax A, okay, we said that as an instructor, if your students start to feel like you are not prepared, they lose their confidence in you. For example, you're trying to show them soft field landing. Why are you trying to demonstrate it and you missed or you learn it hard and you give them a hard landing instead of a soft field landing? Now, instead of you saying, man, I need to do better at it, you start what we call bullshitting them, or you start bluffing them. Now, when they start to find out that you're bluffing them, they'll start losing confidence in you. And now when they start losing confidence in you, whatever your critique and your assessment of their student will not matter to the student. They won't accept it. So in order for your assessment to be accepted by the student have to accept your assessment. So the assessment should be acceptable. It should be specific. Okay? It should be specific to their student and to their student performance. Again, stop comparing. Don't just give them a broad assessment. Okay, it should be specific. Okay, if they're not doing good on decision making, be specific. If they're not doing good in landing, but their stalls and stuff, steep turn is going along, be specific on their landing. So your assessment should be specific. It should be thoughtful. Remember, your students are human beings. Okay, just because you are their instructor, that doesn't make you better than them. Some of these people you'll be instructing are older than you. Some of these people are family members. So because you are their instructor, that doesn't mean you can talk to them in any kind of way. So you got to be thoughtful. You got to be respectful of them. Do not do your assessment in public where it will embarrass them. Don't embarrass your student. Maybe if you have an office like most school do, take your student to the office one-on-one. Okay? It should be thoughtful. It should be comprehensive. It should be complete. Okay? They should be able to understand and get what you're trying to tell them. All right? It should be flexible. I always stress on this. Do not compare your students. People are from different backgrounds with different experience. Okay, not because this person is going faster doesn't mean this person, it's not learning. I mean, people learn at different pace. So your assessment should be flexible. You should be able to say, oh yes, yesterday you did good at this same maneuver, but today, I don't know, maybe you didn't have enough sleep or you're falling behind. So your assessment should be flexible. It should be based on the student performance. It should be based on the student level of experience. Your assessment of a private pilot student or a pre-solo student should not be based on the same. It should not be based on a pre-solo who is working on their pre-private who is working on their cross country, or someone who is working on their commercial certificate. Okay, it should be constructive. This is the main ingredient of assessment. You want your student to understand, and you want your student to learn from your assessment of them. Okay, so it should be constructive. It should not be something that will embarrass them and they will not learn anything from it. Okay, so those are the characteristics of good assessment. When it comes to assessment, there are two types of assessment. Okay, there are traditional assessment and there are authentic assessment. The traditional assessment is pretty much classroom setting. You see your teacher, when you're in math class, your teacher gave you an assessment test, or they gave you test. That is to assess your ability on, or your knowledge of how well you know this material, how well the teacher been teaching this material, how well you understand this material. So this will be based on what? A grading scale. So if you got a 90 and the person got a 60, the person that got 90 understanding more than the person that got 60, right? So that's just the classroom. It could be multiple choice. It could be fill in the blank, or essay. Okay, it's writing. So that's traditional assessment. We have authentic assessment, which as flight instructor is going to be orally. Okay, it's based on performance. Okay, it's a skill, performance skill based. And an authentic assessment focuses on the learning process, right? It also helps the student develop real-world skill. It encourages a high order of learning. If you go back to tax A, we talk about HOTS, high order of learning skill. It teaches the student how to assess their own work. All right. So that's authentic assessment. Well, like I said earlier, when it comes to authentic assessment, is mostly going to be oral as a flight instructor, right? Your assessment will be oral. Pretty much is talking to your student, right? It's not going to be rating. It's not going to be in a classroom setting, right? So you're going to be asking questions. So we need to know what question. We can't just ask any question. It got to be specific question, right? It got to be a question that will result in the student learning. So characteristic of an effective question will be the question that you're going to ask your student will be adapted to the ability, experience, and the stage of the training of their student, right? So there are type of question we shouldn't ask. Okay, when you're assessing your student via orally, there are questions you need to avoid. Question that is tricky question. Okay, you're not trying to play right and wrong game with the student. So avoid tricky question or irrelevant question. Question that does not apply to the subject matter. Okay. Why are you asking this student who is working on their pre-solo package, why are you asking them a question on commercial lazy 8? Now that is irrelevant to them, right? Okay, now we move to critique. Again, critique is an essential skill that we as an instructor need to develop. It's a skill, okay? And it's an essential part of our training, right? So students look up to us, like I said, for motivation. Students look up to us to tell them their progress. Okay, you can't go critique someone that the person is not learning anything from what you critiquing them about. Like for example, you tell them, "Hey man, you suck." Okay, I'm suck at this. Okay, what can I do to better myself? Okay, so we come to the same word. If you're going to critique someone, let it be constructive. For example, right? The fly of the day, you and your student just came from, you and your student working on your heading, right? Keeping a stable heading. Okay, and the student is 15-20 degree up. When you tell them fly 180, they'll find themselves flying 200 heading, or they'll fly themselves flying 160 heading, right? So their critique for that day, you cannot just say, "Hey man, you're all over, your heading was all over the place." Okay, what can he do to better their heading control? All right, an effective critique will be, "Hey man, you were off your heading. You are 10-20 degree off your heading today. Now, the best way to control your heading is this. Look out there. When I tell you to fly to 180, look out there, find a tree, find something out there that you can point the aircraft nose to that is at 180. Fly to their heading. Okay, fly towards that thing. Now, by flying towards that thing, you know that your hair will not be in the cockpit a lot. Your hair will be outside, looking at a reference point you have out there. Now, that critique you gave him by him not holding his head in today, you have give suggestion on how to fix his issue. Don't critique him and don't give him something or suggestion on how to fix it. Now, when we're talking about critique, is letting the student know how they are doing on specific thing you ask them to do. Right? So a critique should come right after each maneuver, each demonstration. For example, you guys go out there, you're working on stall, and the student did a stall and he didn't follow the proper procedure. Now, you didn't critique them right away. Or you're doing steep turn and the student is losing altitude and gaining altitude, all right? And you did not critique them right away after they after their demonstration. You waited. You guys went and did rectangular chords. You did S-turn. You did turn around a point. Then you start to critique them while you guys are going to the airport. While the student will not really catch on what he did bad when he was doing the stall. So critique them right after the performance. Okay, it should be immediately after the student performance, while the details are still fresh in the student mind. So we'll come down to several ways that you as an instructor can critique a student. Okay, it could be a student-led critique. You can let the student, by asking them certain questions, you can let the student critique themselves. Again, that leads us to this next way, which is self-critique. Okay, hey man, what do you think about the steep turn? What are you doing good and what are you doing bad? Let them tell you so that you know that they are aware of what they're doing. Okay, they're self-critiquing. And small group critiques. And this will be mostly in a traditional setting, okay, where in the classroom the student put students in group to work on a project and each group critique the other one. Okay, and again, rating critique. All of this, as a flight instructor, I don't think you'll be doing any kind of rating critique. But individual student critique by another student. Again, all of this will be a classroom critique. And personally, I think the one you as a flight instructor will be using a lot will be the student-led critique, or you as a flight instructor, your instructor-led critique. All right, guys, that's about it for this lesson. I will see you guys in Tax E. But until next time, have fun flying, stay proficient, stay current, and always remember to keep the blue sky up.